Hi everyone! So I'm back with another video, and this time my husband said, you better tell him who you are. So here I am in my Black Panther jacket with the pen and everything. And so I thought that I would explain this kind of story because a lot of people wondered how it was that we were able to get out that BBQ Becky video so well. And that one reason is because, you know, I'm not new to doing video and documenting work, so that's what I'm pretty much going to explain to you. As a matter of fact, we've been to some crazy rallies all last year, so it's almost like those rallies built up where we were going to be, you know. So let's go back, because no, I am not some Rachel Dolezal. You know, I know who I am, I know my history. I am not shy to tell people who my parents are, or where I come from. I am who I am. So, you know, and I'm married to a strong Black man who, you know, got fed up with the way things were. He pretty much, we both have been working full time, really hard, trying to raise our daughters, trying to get them, you know, in the best situation possible. With his own thing is that he had a lot of harassment happening, and especially with a lot of people experienced this kind of harassment over the last few years with Donald Trump and everything. I mean, like, let's not try and deny that that hasn't been happening. You know, people claim it's freedom of speech to apparently tell other people that they're going to be slaves again, or, you know, another issue has been, you know, he has had to deal with issues with police, and he didn't put in an incident record, which I had told him he should have, but I understood why he didn't, because he was he didn't want to be feeling like a victim, or you know, in media attention at that time. Even releasing this video, I asked him, are you sure, because, you know, that means that's probably going to drive a lot more attention to you, and he said, go ahead and do it. So in 2015 he was studying a lot about Black Panthers, Malcolm X, and he felt like we needed to bring it back, especially being in Oakland. So he was going to protest, Black Lives Matter protest, to make sure that he could, you know, de-escalate any kind of situations and make sure people were safe. And then, you know, it's just kind of gradually grown from that. And a lot of people already know in Oakland what we do. A lot of people, this isn't new, you know, it's not like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm appropriating something or something like that. In order to be a Black Panther, you have to know somebody who is willing to put you in, because it's their reputation on the line. And you have to be able to read about the Black Panther Party. You should know the history. And part of the history is there were white people involved. They were just kind of far in the back. And I don't think that in that time that it was really ready to be, you know, where white people were in the forefront trying to really do a lot. But, you know, when it came down to like the newspaper and getting groceries from Safeway and etc., that the community didn't have those resources, and it was white people who really gave a lot of funds and gave a lot of resources for those kind of things. So my husband, knowing that I liked to document a lot and try and get real stories out there, he was like, and on top of that, he feels like I'm a major reason why he pushed to do this, because I always tell him to fight for what you believe in, you know. He wants me by his side. So, you know, I was like, all right, you know, and just to show you how serious it is with me, like, let's look over here. You see that? Every day, that's the 10 points. I have to look at that because I have a really bad memory. And I know that people are going to call me out on how much I know and test me. So, you know, I better know what I'm doing and what I'm talking about. One of my favorite ones is number 5. We want education for our people that exposes the true nature of this decadent American society. We want education that teaches us our true nature, our true history, and our role in the present day society. That's one of my favorite ones. I love to educate any way possible. You know, the best way to do that is through other people's voices as well. So, you know, I don't have to actually put myself into a lot of stuff. I just video record and let other people speak and try and give them a voice. And I noticed that media doesn't really do that, that there's this information where, you know, like Black Panthers were treated like they were terrorists and they were terrorized a lot. And I felt like we need to be celebrating this history, especially it's a major part of Oakland history, and it's kind of sad that it's not celebrated more by all of Oakland, because a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the things that the Black Panthers did back in the days, we benefit from now, like WIC programs, and which, you know, my daughters, I needed WIC in order to take care of them, and I went to the West Oakland Health Center in order to get health care, you know, stuff like that. We pretty much have been building off of that. One of his big inspirations also was to stop violence in the streets. And as you see the painting back there, that's one of his friends who was a popular rapper called the Jacka. And so that's part of Oakland history as well. So if you're from Oakland, you should know these things, especially. You know, like it's not a problem to be somebody new, but at least learn. That's part of how you don't become one of these gentrifiers that everybody hates, is that you appreciate the culture that you are jumping into, because no matter what, this isn't going away. So with that note, I'm going to show you some footage of just how crazy you want to see how it leads up to this video going viral. It's almost like it's just crazy. It's like things were meant to be, I guess, in the sense. So my husband brought me into the party on the 50th anniversary of the Black Panthers. Anniversary was out there at Frank Okinawa. It's Oscar Grant Plaza. And he told me to get a jacket, and I sat out there with the beret and everything like that, because I was like, you know what, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be serious about it. Like, I'm gonna show that I'm not fearful of being so serious about it. But I only wear this normally if I'm in a serious event, because when you represent the Black Panthers, you have to represent, you know, seriously. You can't go out there and you can't smoke and drink and do all these things. You're like on a mission. So the missions that we've done largely last year involved a lot of rallies. And on one thing, the part that my husband does is he's really great at gathering people. He's a really great leader. The things that I'm really good at is gathering information. So I gave him a lot of information. And then I'm good at documenting things and creating media. So one of my things that I'm trying to do is create a platform that is similar to the Black Panther newspaper, and it's called Panther Times. And we'll get right to the Panther Times in a minute, because this is how we're going to wrap the story up, all right? So in early 2017, I don't know if you all remember, there was a big rally in February with Milo, and this huge protest, and Antifa showed up, and they just like pretty much shut the whole thing down. My husband went to that one alone because I was really sick that day and I couldn't go. And he was like, man, it's crazy out there. These dudes were trying to fight me, and Antifa came up and helped me get out of the situation, because I was by myself, like, you know. So he dealt with yet more harassment, as you know, they were saying that there were people with this Milo group that were harassing people and targeting them, and that was just showing us that was happening. So I was like, well, let me go out there, because I know normally he doesn't like me going out, because then he's worried about me. But it's like, you know, I can handle myself. I'm a big, strong girl. Let me go out there and start recording these things so I could prove, because they keep on saying, oh, it's all Antifa, it's the only people that are violent, and we're not violent. We're just trying to get our freedom of speech. These people have plenty of opportunity for freedom of speech. Let me tell you, they just try and agitate, and I have been there firsthand and witnessed it. At the same time, there's many layers to this, because they attract regular people, and with their rhetoric, they try and make themselves sound like victims. So people who think that they're actually, victims will come out and support them. So I would learn what they would be saying, what their propaganda was, and then I would build a counter narrative. I would not only document it, but I would talk to people, and I started to actually get people to agree with me, or I would jump in front of their live streams, because these people had big production, crazy costumes, and they had people that would, you know, be non-violent, who would come up and say and ask random questions like, did you know that the Democratic Party was actually the ones that fought for slavery? And it's like, okay, that's true. So what I would do is I'd be like, yeah, that was before the Dixiecrats. You know, the Dixiecrats ruined everything, and then they switched parties. Like, that's a true fact. So the original people of that timeline, I mean, but those people are dead anyways. But you know, if you would consider the timeline, that you know, shows that the party people reversed who they supported, and the people who were originally for slavery went to the Republican side. But that was long after slavery. You know, that was long after even Jim Crow. That was during the Civil Rights Movement. When I said something as simple as Dixiecrats into their live stream where they're trying to push this certain narrative, people start looking it up and they're like, oh, that's the real fact. So it was, you know, how do I play these mind games where I counter the narrative? And that's a lot of what you see in that video. And so I'm going to show you, you know, like the first rally I went to was in March, and it was mostly just people fighting, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had literally people fighting on my feet. I got maced in the eyes. My husband got bear maced. We both got in the news one way or another. Our jobs had to find out about it, and you know, I was dressed like this. So and you know, like the people on the opposing side would you know, like on Twitter, they'd be like, oh, you can't be a Black Panther, you know, they make fun of me, they're like the White Panther, you know. But the funny thing is, there were White Panthers, so know your history. Anyways, you know, I'm not going to go into the whole dynamics and background of the Black Panthers, because there's a whole lot and you should totally be reading about it. But anyways, let me get out of the way. Let me get out of the way. I ain't ready for that shit. Yo, hey, somebody get him. Get him.
See you drum now, fucker, drummer boy. Run with the stick. He's gonna run out of pepper spray. Go. Hurry the fuck up. Son of a fucking yeah. Trying to stop it. Alex.
That was my focus, was to go to these marches. I focused on fighting white supremacy and the counter narrative and the propaganda, and trying to educate people online, because a lot of people didn't know anything about politics. So they were taking advantage of the fact that a lot of people didn't know anything about politics, and then they suddenly became much more interested and aware, and it starts becoming like this fight of opposing sides, and there's a lot more to it that people should be thinking about. So, you know, the many layers, one way you were fighting the real white supremacists, you know, or the nationalists, or some of them are just populists. Like, they could be different backgrounds, they could be different nationalities too, who fight with them. And a lot of them are opportunists who just want to make money or get like a social media platform with a lot of followers. I mean, if I had sat there and said the stuff that they were saying, I could have easily got so many more followers. But people don't really listen to me because you know, sometimes the truth is not as entertaining as lies. So okay, so in March 4th, that was the first Berkeley rally that I went to. I know there was one already that they considered with the Milo Fest, but to me this was the real first one. This was one where people from opposing sides just came and they were screaming at each other. And after that, it made me start to be aware of who the actors were in this involved. And I started going to social media. I had like puppet accounts, and I would start debating with people and getting information and just asking them questions. I would even ask like a lot of alt-right people questions, and what was funny was they actually really respect the Black Panthers. Apparently they made their own point commandment. I don't think it's 10 points, but it's called a Vox, VOX point, and you could look it up, Google it, alt-right Vox points, and they actually did their own based on, you know, and a lot of the things they did was actually based off their knowledge of the Black Panthers, which is crazy. But that's why they used the civil rights movement and also what came after that as the way to organize. So this is why I felt like it was important that we were more organized and we had an understanding of who our enemy was and how we were going to fight their narrative, because it was much more than something you could physically fight. You know, if we didn't understand what was going on as far as propaganda and how they were recruiting people and how they were getting people to believe them and support them, then we were never going to win. You know, we're just two sides bashing at each other. I mean, I guess you can figure out who wins by force eventually, but you know, like, damn, it's 2018. Like, are we still seriously asking, like, this is back in the European days with the, you know, the Crusades or something? But that's really what they wanted. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, so let's get back up to April. I went to another rally in April 15th, and that one my husband couldn't go to. So I had to go by myself, and this one was the craziest one. I didn't stay the whole entire time. I got almost punched by the same dudes who punched another girl that went viral. And I don't know how many times I had gotten some sort of mace stuck in my eyes, but it was actually from like these M80s that Antifa kept throwing. There was like pepper in there and it kept getting in my eyes, and then they would run and they would help me get it out and say sorry, but it was like I was just standing there at the wrong time. Like, you know, it's just crazy. This was the first time though I started talking to people and started doing a counter narrative, like in this clip right here.
Don't engage.
It's over. Your time is over. Get a new one.
Sorry. What's up?
We all got it.
Oh, fuck it. I said fuck it. I look pretty today anyways.
What are you threatened about?
I don't like people taking my picture.
What about when the government takes your camera away?
That was with the communist war.
What about when the government takes your free speech away?
You're a fat white bitch and a traitor.
And do you remember that one time in
They
North
hate
Carolina
you.
when you guys got shot? Oh yeah.
Yeah. They hate you. They don't like you.
I don't.
You're
I don't like you guys
dude, you're a
either.
switch hitter. Fuck out of here,
Y'all
dude.
like give a name for Captain Confronting.
White privilege is a Jewish invention.
No, it's not.
Dude, it's a result of our ancestors' work that
It's a
other people
result
didn't do.
of corporations.
Shut up. Look at the CEOs. Who are the? We're working class. I do construction.
No. Your culture matters.
CEOs are all Jewish. Jewish ours are.
Jigglypuff, can I get a picture with you?
Yeah, sure.
Hell yeah.
You
Got it with the medium.
How does it work though? You're the ones
When we make the event and you guys come out like this,
What?
that means you're triggered.
No, it means that
We do something. We do something and you guys react.
Protest that's called the First Amendment. We have a right to be freedom of speech as well.
No, that's not how it works. You're triggered. We make the event, you guys respond, that's how it works. You're triggered. That's how it works. Congrats, you're on Trigger Hub. Say hi. Say hi to Trigger Hub.
You can have your
Yeah.
This is how we get totally about each other.
No. A majority of people can't stand us.
Well, it's kind of the Western culture and saying it's superior to all other cultures, and then you guys decide what is allowed in America as American culture, and I'm told I'm not American. This is part of American history. That's superiority.
American doesn't have anything to do about being a race. I consider myself not to be black, white, or anything. I'm an American.
I'm talking about culture, not race at this point.
Okay, what's wrong with American culture?
Nothing. What's wrong with being a diverse American culture, though? Why is it just Western?
Why does it have to be a diverse? American culture is diverse. We're the most diverse country in the world. We're the least racist country in the world.
Here you are with Proud Boys, and they do Western chauvinism, which means that it's depicted on what they feel is the Western culture. What is Western culture? Let's
being able to walk down the street and not fucking be blown up or have your head chopped off for being a specific religion.
Sounds like regular culture to me. There's no, what I was told is that you guys didn't want Muslims or different immigrants or different people, that everybody has to be assimilated directly into the culture right away.
Yeah, that's how it works. If you want to be a part of a country with a specific culture, you have to, you can be whatever you want, but you have,
that's not how America works. And that's not even libertarian.
That's why you get places like Sweden.
Comes from the word liberal,
that's why you get places like Germany and Sweden where women are being raped because that's a part of their religion.
Now you're coming up with all this. No. I'm sure that it happens.
Places like Germany.
Sure that it happens, but this is not our problem because we're supposed to be American first, right? Not Sweden and Germany first.
And then it was just fights. Like I was like, there's no way. This is all people want to do. They came here to fight and they're not going to listen. Like there were some people who wanted to debate, and I know they want to debate me again, but it was just crazy. Like seriously.
Right there, it's her.
There it goes.
Oh, deep for deep,
Get the fuck off of him! Get the fuck off of him!
shit! Back up, motherfucker!
Fucking done?
Good. All right, stand down. You get on! You get on!
Let's go. Boss, you're pleading.
What up? What's up? Yeah, come on. That's on. You hit like a bitch, dude. Hey, don't hit me. Hey, help him out. Dude, let him out. Let him out. Stop fighting, Jesus. Don't fucking fight. You make me sick! Fuck all of you! You make me sick! You're black! Fuck your kids! Die, bitches! Die! All of you! Die! Your kids, your family, fuck you!
Worst cosplay event ever. Anyways, so from there, people saw some of my videos and some of the stuff I was writing, and then they wanted me to write about memetics and propaganda and you know, and how they were able to get such a huge following from using these kind of techniques. So it's like this using social media on top of that. So it's a modern day way of, you know, it's not like this hasn't happened before. People used propaganda and imagery to in movies and media in order to rile people up before. I mean, that's how fascism has always started, and it's also how Jim Crow was put in place, and it was how lynchings came about because, you know, of certain movies and propaganda that was put out in sources of media. And that was when somebody suggested that I should start doing investigative journalism, because that was pretty much what they said I was doing, was trying to get all the facts, and I would talk to totally different sources, and I would talk to anybody and just be like, you know, kind of in the middle, and then I would speak their truth. And the funny thing is, even the people that I'm supposed to be opposed to would agree with things I was saying, because at least it was true. You know, I thought about the journalism thing, and I have an opportunity to go back to school, and so the spring from January of this year until the end of May was when I was doing my first semester all in journalism classes. So that helped a lot for how I was able to present the BBQ Becky video, because not only that, I was able to get somebody to write about it and interview us and do things properly. So I'll show you a little bit more footage first though, because there's a progression. At first I was just filming to prove that people were wanting to just fight on both sides, that there were people agitating violence, and I proved that. The next time I tried to actually talk to people, the next rallies came after Charlottesville happened, and San Francisco was one of them on the 26th of August, and then it was Berkeley again on the 27th, and people were freaking out, like seriously. And I was like, do you guys know that they already came here and did a whole battle out here? Like, and a lot of people didn't. It was just weird. Okay, so blood was spilled in Martin Luther King Civic Center Park in Berkeley, and you guys don't even know, and you live here. Crazy. But anyways, so you know that I had told my husband what I was doing too, and that was when he confronted one of the main people that do these rallies, which is Joey Gibson. A lot of people know this, and if there wasn't already another activist who wasn't blowing this horn, you'd probably hear him admit that he never voted for Trump and he wasn't really a Trump supporter, and all kinds of stuff that probably would have upset his people and would have destroyed his counter narrative, but we were never able to use it because you just hear a horn. So unfortunately not everybody got that. Like, I understood what they were coming from, because they say no platform for fascists, And yet, you know, if there's somebody who's able to counter that propaganda, I think that we should be able to do it, especially if they're Black Panthers and you respect them. So, you know, just saying. Anyways, so
what they did, the torchlight and the marching in the middle of the night, that was wrong. Really fucked up. I do not like it. And we're here to do a rally. It's all about love, truth, and freedom. That's all there was. But people like Nancy Pelosi and the mayor, they spoke and called us white supremacists. That's why everybody's against us. We couldn't walk the street without somebody cussing at us, calling me a white supremacist. I'm a brown man. I'm from the island. I'm from American Samoa. How can I be a white supremacist? I love everybody equally. The only people I do not like and I disagree with, even though they have the right for their freedom of speech, is white supremacists and people that judge you by the color of your skin. I do not like that. And we're all about love. And when they're doing that one thing, where's the love? Where's the peace that they talk about? I want to bring everyone together. Learn how to disagree without disrespect. That's all there is. You come to places like this, you come with open ears to hear a different opinion that is different from yours. And all there is for you to have a conversation, and after that, if you don't agree, walk away. But people like this, that doesn't want to have conversation.
So the next day, we also confronted them, and this is when everybody was like, go home Nazi. Everybody was just riled up and everything. But this is the first time really that I just go after somebody and I was telling them to stop dehumanizing people in their live streams. So I was able to go into their live stream. It wasn't the first time I went into somebody's live stream. Back in the April one, I actually got one of the libertarian guys to admit that he wanted all of immigrants to be gone, but he actually, then he starts talking about how he fixed his yard using you know, illegal labor, like people who weren't from here. So yeah, that was funny because I put it on the live stream and people were like, no, stop. And that's it. I've kind of become known to these people of like, oh no, don't get her on the live stream, because I will start getting people saying, huh, wait a minute, you guys are hypocrites. That's the point. So anyways,
doing a nice thing doesn't take away doing bad. Where is an instance of actual murder and terror? Here. I was here too, man, and they tried brutalized a shit ton of people as well. Yeah, after you guys started. It was a two. No, are you denying? Are you denying? Listen. This is my take. Let me have my
this is according to you, who does journalism on a platform.
And they lined up in the middle.
I know, I saw them. I saw them. Terrorism people. But I saw them with bombs. I saw them with bombs.
What did Cornel West say? Did you hear what Cornel West said about Antifa? Did you? No. He said, quote unquote, if it had not been for anarchists and Antifa, I would have been squashed like a cockroach. He went on to say, Antifa and anarchists saved my life, and I will never forget it. That's Cornel West.
That's your point. Let me answer this point. Let me answer it this way.
Pablo Escobar did it.
Because we want to say anti-racism and anti-fascism. That's what they're for. They say they're for speech and freedom, but they want to prevent immigrants and they want to.
It's only their speech.
Yeah, exactly. It's only their speech. That's what it comes down to.
So
So now
I
I got
asked her,
it.
would she tore down a fascism sign then? Because she said she would do an ISIS and anti-fascist, but not a fascism
And
sign.
how do you equate people who are anti-fascist with ISIS just because they wear masks? That's just fear-mongering. They wear masks because they don't want people like them putting them on 4chan and trying to get them all chased down and harassed. That's why. Let's be real. We're running.
Clear path, clear path, you're in the way. Clear path.
Go home, Nazis!
Piece of shit!
Get the fuck out! You fat bastard!
Go that way. Oh shit.
Get on the Berkeley! Yeah, baby! Fuck Donald Trump! Fuck Donald Trump! Fuck Donald Trump! Fuck you, Nazi! Fuck Donald Trump! Fuck Donald Trump! You Nazi! Fuck Donald Trump! Come on, Nazi! Come on, Come East Oakland! You ain't going to East Oakland! Come East Oakland! Come on, I love to hate that you guys are against! I love to hate that you're against! I love to hate that you're against! Why you out here, Nazi? I don't belong to Berkeley either! I love to hate that! Jason Benitez!
You know, that's how we handled that one. And then there was another rally in December in San Francisco, and so what I decided for this one was, you know, Kyle Chapman, who was from day one at these rallies, and he bear-maced my husband. He attacked a lot of people. He's an agitator. He's one of the people that have a big following online, and he gets people to come out and do exactly what a lot of people are doing now, which is they try and agitate you to get you to fight so that you could be seen on camera fighting, and then they could say, do you see those leftists, do you see those libtards, whatever they want to call you, right? Like Kyle Chapman is against communists as if he's Joe McCarthy all over again. It's like the 50s and 60s. It's weird. It's like the commies are coming, you know. It's no, we're not communists. Number one, okay, we're more on the socialist side, but there's nothing wrong with if you're going to fight for freedom of speech, but then you're not going to let other people have their ideas and speak on it. There's some sort of hypocrisy. So they're saying they're being attacked, but the way they're getting attacked is because they are agitating people and getting them angry and making them want to fight, and then they put it on camera and they capture that, and they'll only capture that part where somebody else is attacking them, and they'll act like victims. You see the game right here? It sounds kind of familiar, right? Like somebody else was trying to get these two black men at Lake Merritt to anyways. So what I decided to do for the December rally was to take one of Kyle Chapman's tweets and put it on a poster, and then I would show it I would go in front of people's live streams and say, hey, you guys support this guy. He supports lynchings, you know. I mean, it's pretty convenient for them to come out and try and act all nice, and then, you know, the people they support a lot of fascism. And so that's one of the things that the media has failed to really describe to people. The reason why Antifa is so hard on them is they're anti-fascist. A lot of people will then, you know, interview these guys and they'll be like really nice people, but they won't go back to the fact that they're online telling people you need to throw people out of helicopters, we need to gas people, we need to get rid of whole entire populations. That is fascism, when you just want to get rid of whole entire populations. What we have going on right now with those children being detained, that is fascism. This is America right now. This is what we have to fight. So that was pretty much how I did it, and that was the last rally I went to. And especially because right now their narrative, their unity, you know, when you have a year's worth of people who are really just hateful, they hate a lot of people, guess what? They start hating on each other. So they kind of destroyed their own factions, you know, like they're fighting with each other. So there's not a lot of rallies because they all hate each other. There's a lot of drama between them. Some of them have even died just naturally. It's pretty interesting. So we don't really have rallies, but, you know, going back to the BBQ Becky situation, you know, she just picked on a wrong one, you know. Like, my husband didn't know if I was going to come that day when he called me, but I definitely was like, no, I can't leave him back out there. I have a funny feeling about this, and I went out there and recorded her, and everything that I did was based off everything I had already learned. So it's just kind of ironic how that worked. So, you know, it just happened that very weekend that all that was going on, I had already been under pressure to start a new website that was kind of based off of the Black Panther newspaper, the original one, you know, where the people from the streets are able to get their voices heard, their stories. We're gonna have lots of writers. I already have a different writer. So going back to the Panther Times, what I did was I had our writer Joy Alon interview the both of us, and she wrote an article, because I knew that the video was going to be pretty kind of complicated and have a lot of questions. And so we were able to not only post the video but have a written article which has been sourced and used as a source for Newsweek and a lot of other big publications, which made it a lot more official just off of one posting. Like, we got something like almost 70,000 views on that website in 1 week, and I had just started the website and it was off of one article. So anyways, my journalist professors are really happy with me right now. And I got all A's. So that's that story, and that's a little piece of who I am, other than a mother and a wife and someone who loves her cats and likes to learn about a lot of stuff in different cultures. And I have quite a extremely different family going on that's one way or another. So, you know, that's who I am.